Have you ever felt apathetic and cynical towards something? Maybe schoolwork, a chore, errands, perhaps a boring lecture that you have to attend. But have you ever felt immense apathy or cynicism for something you're supposed to enjoy doing? Have you ever asked yourself what the point is? Why you continue when you don't feel like you have any connection to it anymore? I certainly have. Far too many times, in fact. If there's one thing that I admire in all of the characters in Haikyuu, it would be their mental fortitude. Their drive to move forward regardless of the physical, technical, or mental challenges in front of them. This mentality that they were going to fight until the final whistle. And like real life, the arcs and journeys of these characters are varied. Some have a more difficult path than others, and some far more concise in their development. But it was always amazing to watch the characters in Haikyuu show real growth. And then there was Tsukishima. If I had to be honest, I was not a fan of Tsukishima. He was probably the only character I disliked at the start of Season 1, and this sentiment was echoed by a couple of my friends when they first started watching Haikyuu as well. Curiously enough, Tsukishima placed 8th in Haikyuu's first popularity poll, and 4th in Haikyuu's second popularity poll. In fact, the question my friends and I asked was, why do people like this guy? He's kind of a jerk. There was something that seemed inherently malicious about him. Like he enjoyed being mean, especially when it came to the two protagonists in Kageyama and Hinata. Tsukishima often gave off the impression of being arrogant, yet strangely putting himself down whenever he compared himself to the duo. He seemed apathetic and emotionless, easily irritated and cynical. I'm always impressed how Furudate uses the literal translation and kanji of each character's names to represent the journey, role, or a theme they embody in the overarching narrative. Tsukishima is no different in that regard, with his first name Kei, meaning firefly, and his last name Tsukishima, meaning Moon Island. Another translation for Tsuki, with different kanji, means to fabricate, construct, or build. And as an added bonus, Tsukishima's birthday of September 27th was the date of the Moon Festival in 2015. Initially, the only connection I made was that Tsukishima was indeed an island. He was difficult to reach and befriend, only allowing one person onto his island in Tadashi. His position as a middle blocker embodied the second meanings of the kanji of Tsuki, as he was the cornerstone of Karasuno's defense. But I was a little confused as to the other meanings, at least at the time. Season 1 passes by fairly uneventfully for Tsukishima, as he doesn't exhibit any significant growth or development. In fact, he is often regarded as a clever blocker despite lacking intense willpower or drive. And sure, he is able to tersely work with Kageyama during their match against Aoba Josai, but nothing about him really stood out. I was thoroughly unconvinced. While I didn't think he was inherently mean, his attitude, apathy, and cynicism really threw me off. It was like he didn't want to form these connections with volleyball or his teammates, but yet he was still around regardless. Every character seemed so driven. Everyone. Except for him. So when I reached the start of Season 2, my expectations for Tsukishima were low. Maybe he would be a static supporting character that might occasionally pipe in and help the team out. But I had given up on seeing Tsukishima grow. Maybe he would quit or something. I mean, he didn't really seem to care about volleyball, so why continue it? He didn't really seem to be getting anything out of the experience. But Daichi disagreed with my assessment. Even though he was worried about Tsukishima, even though he didn't understand him and the logic of his motives in comparison to everyone else, I think deep down Daichi saw that there was something in Tsukishima. Something that kept him around the team. And he believed that Tsukishima would work those things out and stay, similar to his belief that Kageyama and Hinata would work out their troubles too. One night, as Tsukishima goes back to retrieve his pads, he hears the sound of practice and mutters to himself that he doesn't understand. This is just a club. Why do you put so much into it? It's because you put so much into it that you suffer later. And this continued lack of evolution causes his teammates to speculate, with many of them noting he'd be capable of so much more if he just tried. After watching Tsukishima's lack of development for the entirety of Season 1 and the start of Season 2, Season 2 Episode 8 shines some light on his past, the defining catalyst of his journey to the present. That his older brother inspired him to play volleyball in the first place, and this older brother of his played the role of the ace. right off the bat, it was easy to be a little confused. How did this childish, excitable, and happy Tsukishima become what he is in the present? And when I watch that episode, all I can see are the signs that his older brother is lying to him. From answering questions without having Tsukishima see his face, to the fake smiles he puts on when young Tsukishima asks him how his volleyball games and practices are going. I get this monster of a knot in my stomach watching this episode, because it makes me think of my own older brother that I've always looked up to and cherished. If I were to discover that he had lied to me about his basketball days, or that he had been living a lie for several years and telling me stories that I took as truth, how would that affect me and my outlook on people? My outlook on life? It finally all clicked for me. Why Tsukishima was so flippant about volleyball, why he disliked anyone with passion, why he was so cynical, why he usually was expressionless and emotionless, why Tsukishima told his teammates that he was just there to hold down the fort while Hinata got the spotlight. To him, volleyball was indeed just a game, the game that caused his big brother to lie to him for years. There's this one line that his brother says that stood out to me. Connections mean everything in volleyball. One of Haikyuu's major themes is what it means to connect. There are several chapters and soundtracks devoted to the concept of connection, but I personally feel that aside from the physical aspect of connecting in volleyball, making a strong receiver dig, is that sense of human connection. That when you know the people around you have your back, and that they want you to succeed. I think it goes without saying that it's easier to work at something when you feel supported. So even though I knew what the end result of Tsukishima's memory would be, watching it wasn't any easier, especially with his brother's words in mind. I think it's really hard in any circumstance when you realize that the role models you look up to aren't everything you thought they were, and especially so if they've played a huge part in your life. It's even worse when it seems like their entire life has been a lie. It might have been a little bit more palatable for Tsukishima if his older brother was a starter, or at least a player on the bench. Then there would have at least been an ounce of truth for Tsukishima to cling on to. But no, the truth is revealed in two decisive blows. The first, with the little giant scoring a point that Tsukishima always envisioned his brother scoring. And the second, seeing his older brother in the crowd, a far cry from the stories he'd always heard and imagined. In those two decisive moments, I think Tsukishima subconsciously decided that if connections mean everything in volleyball, then I want nothing to do with either of them. If I don't connect with people, then volleyball will really mean nothing to me. I don't think it's a coincidence that his only friend is Tadashi from his childhood days prior to his disillusionment. How can he give effort towards something that holds such a contemptuous place in his life? Why show passion for something that has only caused him suffering? If he's apathetic towards it, then maybe he can completely avoid this pain and disillusionment. And in his opinion, anyone who is devoted to the game of volleyball is a fool. Hence why he often directs his ire towards Kageyama, and especially towards Hinata, who no doubt reminds him of the little giant who irrevocably changed his outlook on life. And sadly, I think the most ironic part about it all is that his solution causes the exact outcome he's trying to avoid. As I mused, I realized that I, the disapproving viewer, have quite a bit of Tsukishima inside of myself too. When I reflect on myself, I would say that my mindset embodied Tsukishima for much of my high school career and even into my collegiate career. When I would succeed at something like academics or athletics, I would always put myself back down by saying that there were others who were far better than me. When I would have the opportunity to challenge myself, I would back away, telling myself that I was saving both the effort and energy. And unfortunately, this led me to a state of apathy and uncertainty. I've been embarrassed once, I'll just be embarrassed again. So why take the risk? Why try at all? There are so many interests and hobbies that come to mind when I look back on the cynicism and apathy that has often taken control of my life. Various abandoned stories, games left unfinished, potential opportunities avoided, courts left empty, piano pieces left on the floor, and art left in pencil sketches without colors. And in deciding not to pursue those interests, I missed out on connecting with others and with myself. A big part of me hoped beyond hope that Tsukishima would see volleyball through, that he would be able to triumph over this inner turmoil and connect with something again. And if he was able to, then maybe, someday I could too. After declining Bokuto's invitation to practice again, Tsukishima seems poised to stay in this cycle of cynicism and apathy. That is, of course, until his only friend in Tadashi confronts him, planting a seed in his mind that maybe his mindset isn't exactly a healthy one. That maybe a change of mindset would be a good thing for him. That maybe the reason why everyone practices and plays volleyball is not for anyone else but themselves. So when Tsukishima asks Bokuto why he plays volleyball, the ace replies that once Tsuki has that moment of validation, of importance, of excitement and joy, of feeling essential and connected, that will be the moment he's hooked on volleyball. And when his older brother tells Tsukishima why he's still playing volleyball despite the pain it caused both of them, he explains that it is a combination of both Tadashi and Bokuto's reasons that compel him forward. That he knows the feeling of getting a good spike in and hearing the crowd roar. That he wants to be in a place where he's content, where he can do his best until he's satisfied. But the difference between their conversation in the past and in the present is that Tsukishima's older brother actually means and believes what he's saying. We can actually see his expression. These two brief moments mark a small shift in Tsukishima's general mindset. He starts to willingly practice and train with Bokuto, Akashi, Kuru, and others, taking a sense of what this connection through volleyball might bring him. But the deep cynicism and apathy inside of him is still present. It often feels like he's just moving through the motions. And yet, when he and his brother talk, Tsukishima smiles softly. That maybe the childlike belief inside of him isn't dead just yet. That maybe, if his brother can still press on in the sport that brought him nothing but shame, unfulfillment, and humiliation in high school, maybe there's a chance Tsuki can too. Maybe there really is a chance to break free of this jaded cynicism that has tortured him since that day. So in the darkest of night, when the might of Shiratorizawa and Ushijima threatens to completely overtake Karasuno, the moon finally emerges from beyond the clouds. In many ways, Season 3 is Tsukishima's season. That after 2 full seasons, Tsukishima emerges as the moon to Hinata's sun. Not just to hold down the fort until Hinata returns, but instead as an integral part of the team that can not only shine, but emit light on its own like a firefly. When Tsukishima lands one of the most memorable blocks in the entire show, it cemented itself as one of my favorite moments in all of Haikyuu. As a thematic moment, having blocked a top 3 ace for the set-winning point, and a personal moment. With that one block, Tsukishima both shatters his unhealthy mindset and reconstructs the bridge that originally allowed him to connect with volleyball, himself, and others. The song that plays during Tsukishima's moment, aptly titled The Halo Around the Moon, says something in itself. A halo around the moon signifies that unsettled weather is coming, a warning signifying an approaching storm. And when that soundtrack plays, it is then that Tsukishima and Karasuno have finally arrived, which proves to be thematically prophetic as the unorthodox Karasuno defeats the heavily favored Shiratorizawa to claim their ticket to the national stage. Tsukishima finally becomes what he wanted to see in his older brother, and the way he organizes Karasuno's defense, strategizes, injures his hand, and shows the drive to want to continue playing until the very end. I can't help but break into a smile. His transition is easily one of the best character arcs I personally have ever seen and empathized with. In my opinion, Tsukishima is arguably Furudate's masterclass in character development. From being an absolute cynic in Season 1, saying things like, "It's just a club, it's just a game," to consciously putting his faith and trust in Hinata, and diving on the floor for a receive in Season 4. That it may just be a club, that it may just be 1 point out of 25, but it's something worth the effort. It's something that's worth the connection. Tsukishima gives me hope. Even when I am feeling apathetic and cynical about my hobbies and various other things in my life, asking myself what the point of it all is. That if I can have my one moment, a release from the doubts of my mind is possible. That if I have my one moment, I can rebuild this connection that I've lost with myself, my hobbies, and other people. That in that one moment, everything will have been worth it. Hey everyone, Echoes here. I imagine you were a little surprised that I released a video today, considering I've been releasing about 1 video a month, but I really wanted to make up for lost time. For me, my moment in making these video essays is when I watch the final product and upload it to YouTube. I always get this stupid grin on my face when I read the comments and see how other people react and empathize with what I'm talking about. With the recent conclusion of Season 4, you can expect more than a few videos on Season 4 coming in the near future. The channel hit 300 subs a few days ago, which is a wild milestone for me. Thank you all so much for the support. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, or add it to your favorites. I would really enjoy hearing about your thoughts on Tsukishima. Have a great week, and I hope to see you all again soon.